Hello and hello. Welcome to Wise Child Pod. I am your host, Kayla, and this is my very first episode. I wanted to use this episode to kind of just be an intro episode, talk about how I came up with the name Wise Child Pod because it's so special to me, and how Wise Child Pod came to be, how it's here, why it's here. Just a little bit about the name. Wise Child Pod. I wanted something that was going to be unique to me. Something that I felt represented me very well, but also represented Christ. And something that was going to grab your attention and make you want to listen. Wise Child Pod. What is that about? What even is a wise child? So I got the idea from the meaning of my name. Actually, the meaning of Kayla is wise child, and I believe that's the Arabic meaning, because there's lots of meanings to Kayla across different languages. It's a pretty popular name, but growing up I always understood that the meaning of Kayla was wise child. And I think that's so important because I do think that we, embody our names pretty well. I think that our names can be pretty prophetic for a lot of reasons. Whether you were named with intent or not, I think that you do grow into the meaning of your name. I think that's just how it is. I think that there are spiritual implications to naming people things and just the decisions that we make. So yeah. But how Wise Child Pod came to be, why it's here. I think it's just important to get to know me a little bit because I think that helps you understand why Wise Child Pod is here. Wise Child Pod. Let me stop saying Wise Child Pod so much, right? Starting this podcast, is definitely a step outside of my comfort zone. I am someone who likes to definitely speak to people, to speak into people's lives, to pour into people's lives. But the social media world, I don't want to say is not my thing, but I don't think it's something in my adult life that I saw myself really, stepping into. Just because now it's so... it's a full production now, honestly. It's not really amateur content out here anymore. But nonetheless, here I am because I just was, I'm just excited to get it all out. But really, a lot of the passion just comes from pointing people to Christ, pointing people to God, helping them grow in their personal lives and in their relationships. That's something that I'm very passionate about. I love seeing how God can give me the words to encourage someone, whatever situation they're in, and, encourage them to draw closer to Him, or just give them wisdom, in their, in their personal situations, in their personal lives. I think that there's certain conversations that you can have with people, that while you're not directly or blatantly talking about God, you're representing God when you stand and you speak to them and you give them wisdom and help them in their situations, and it plants a seed, and it leaves room so that when it's time to talk about God or to introduce them or evangelize to them, you have that opportunity. So yeah, that's a lot. That is a little bit about where the passion comes from, why Child Pod is here. So why Child Pod is here just because I have a passion for seeing people grow, for seeing, and I know I won't always get to see the fruit of my words, and I won't get to see everyone who it impacts, but the point is that it impacts people. I don't necessarily need to see it. It just needs to impact people. So yeah, a little bit about the topic that I wanted to get into was just trying again with your goals this year, staying out of complacency, staying out of autopilot. What goals did you set for yourself this year? What was your New Year's resolution? I know it's the end of March, but I think you should pick those back up again, because I know that a lot of us put them down. A lot of us got discouraged at some point or tired and said, you know what? I'm okay with my unfit body. I'm okay working paycheck to paycheck. You might have not consciously thought that, but when you put the goal down, that's what you said subconsciously. It's I'm okay. I've been making it in this situation. I'm all right. And the same thing with your relationship with God. And that thing can be tough. That thing can be tough. It can be so tough. I think that I probably could go back to my goals for each year, probably back to like 2018, which is what, like 5-6 years ago at this point. And I think the first time I had written out like New Year's resolutions, I was able to check them all off, which is amazing. And the last couple of years I wasn't really able to do that. But I think that's because I never like set out, okay, how am I going to do that? How am I going to reach those goals? What practical things am I going to do every day to get me to those goals? So if your so if your goal this year was, I want to get closer to God, I want to be a man of God, I want to be a woman of God, I want to be on fire for God. Even if you didn't write it down, if you internally said, this is what I'm going to do this year, I'm going to take God serious, what did you tell yourself that you're going to do every day to do that? And I think sometimes we do things, we try to do things that are too big all at once, and then it becomes very, very intimidating and discouraging, so we don't want to do it anymore. Because if your goal is to get fit this year, and you say, I'm going to go to the gym 7 days a week for 4 hours a day, that's not really realistic unless you have the time to do that, right? And even if you did have the time to do that, I think that it could become extremely discouraging, because you're not giving yourself room for the days that you're going to be sore. Hear me out. You're not giving yourself room for the days that you're going to need rest, because you are. And it's the same thing with your relationship with God. In 2018, in 2019, I had set out to read the whole Bible in 1 year, and do the Bible in 1 year reading plan, and I did it. And there were definitely days where I did not get into that reading plan. I missed it. I missed the mark. But then the next day I would make myself do, okay, whatever days I missed, now I gotta do 3 days worth of readings. And if anyone's done like that Bible in 1 year plan, like, it's lengthy. Like, it's not easy. You need to set aside some time to do that. Okay? So if you miss 3 days, you got some work to do. And obviously you don't want to get into the spirit of works, but I did have to, like, sometimes I was going to sleep and just listening to it, because I had to account for, like, there was going to be days where, like, realistically it wasn't going to work. So with your relationship with God, like, you have to account for it. It's just like your relationship with a spouse. Part of what I'm saying is your relationship with God gives us grace, right? And and that's why marriage is such a beautiful reflection of what our relationship with God is supposed to look like, because there's some days where it's going to need grace, right? Like, some days where I can't meet or be there for my spouse the way that he might need me to be, or the way that we would like for it to be. But he can meet me where I'm at, right? And when you're setting your goals, you have to account for that, and not too much, because I think that we're a generation too that we give ourselves a lot of grace. We probably preach too much grace, and right, His grace abounds, right? But we're a little bit too nice to ourselves with, like, I love the self-love movement. I should be careful saying I love the self-love movement. I love that we've learned to appreciate ourselves a different way, right? You have to be intentional about caring for yourself, about taking care of yourself, about disciplining yourself, and remembering that discipline is self-love. So every time you take yourself to the gym, you're showing love to yourself. Every time you're eating healthy, you're showing love to yourself. Every time you connect with God, you're showing love to yourself, because you're showing a care for your soul and for your spirit. Really, when you continue to give yourself things that you don't necessarily deserve, when you continue to just feed all of your desires because they're there, you're not showing yourself love. It's the same. It's the same as raising a child as well. Like, you can't give them everything they want because you end up with a spoiled brat. You have to tell them no sometimes, just for the sake of, like, you gotta know, bud, some things you earn them. So when it comes to setting your goals, you are gonna need to give yourself grace. And like I was saying, like, but not too much grace, because one day off easily turns into like a week off, and then a month off, and then all of a sudden you're off course and you're not working towards your goals anymore. And like I said, there has to be a balance of, like, you don't want to be in the spirit of works when it comes to a relationship with God. And the same thing with the rest of your goals. Like, you don't want to be, okay, well, I'm just going to show up even if I show up. And hear me out, because like I said, there's a balance. I'm just going to show up because I'm going to show up, but I'm not going to do a good job. Is that really showing up, though? Exactly. So this week, I want you guys to, practically think of ways that you're going to grow closer to God and stay out of autopilot. And when I say, what is autopilot? Why do you keep calling it autopilot, Kayla? When they talk about the captain of the flight, he's not controlling the gears anymore. He's not actively flying the plane. The plane is flying itself. That's what you do when you don't actively live your life every day. When you don't actively pursue God every day, you're in autopilot. You're giving in to the laziness, dare I say, that your flesh desires. This body of yours just wants to relax. It just wants to consume good TV, consume good media, consume good food, laugh at a video on social media. It wants to scroll on social media all day, not go to work, not whatever, not do anything. Your flesh doesn't want to do anything that's good for you. Almost everything that's good for you hurts you in the immediate, but rewards you in the long run. So say no to immediate gratification today. Say no to that big purchase because you don't need it right now. Do what you can with what you got. Say no to that donut or the crumble cookie right now. Talking to myself. Because in the long run, you will see the results that you desire. Say no to going out to the club this weekend. Okay, go to Bible study. Really, like, whatever is going to benefit your soul, whatever is going to benefit your growth, whatever is going to benefit pointing you towards your goals, you got to say no to the immediate stuff. You might have to say no to brunch with the girlies because you don't have the funds, baby. You have financial goals. That face is so me when I'm like talking dramatically to people and I can't help it. Like, that stare is like for like dramatic effect, and I definitely got it from my husband because I don't think I was doing that before. But say no to immediate gratification. Say no to immediate gratification for your spirit, for your soul, for your health, and for your fitness, for your finances. Say no to immediate gratification. And like I said, that's not to say don't give yourself grace. That's not to say don't give yourself a treat, because you will, deserve it here and there. Like I said, balance is going to be everything. When it comes to your personal goals, for sure, it's going to be everything, because if you go too hard, you crash too hard. You crash really hard. But when you put in room for rest, Did this just turn into a message about rest? When you put it in a room for rest, you recharge and you're ready to go again. So, I think I said, like, maybe, I don't know. There's lots of different ways you can go about it. If it's for saving finances, maybe, okay, after I pay off this debt, and this might go a lot against a lot of the financial rules that people give you. So I'm not here giving financial advice. I'm using it as an example. But, maybe after you pay off one debt, you say, okay, I can buy myself a little pair of shoes. I'm not talking about nothing crazy. I'm not talking about something super expensive. I'm saying, maybe I could buy myself a little something. Nothing crazy. If I lose X amount of pounds, I can get my hair done a certain way, buy a new purse. I don't know. Little things that will help you, look forward to the reward and kind of enjoy the fruit of your sacrifice. And when it comes to your relationship with God, really the rest, there's no rest from your relationship with God, right? But there is rest with God. So when you're busy throughout the week, when you're working towards your goals and you're with your friends, you've got to set out your Sabbath, right? And I think a lot of people have kind of strayed away from Sunday being their designated Sabbath. Some people just are, this is Saturday, like, for instance, let's say your day off from work is Saturday. That is your Sabbath. That's the time that you intentionally spend with God. That is going to be what recharges you in the spiritually, and then what recharges you physically, what keeps you going physically. Like, I find that when I prioritize my time with God, when I'm very intentional about my time with God, everything else follows. Like, favor literally follows me. Like, I could go on and on about the stories. It didn't even make, like, there's just times where it didn't make sense. like receiving promotions at work, and I literally was like looking around like, where is this coming from? Like, I just show up to work every day. I'm not even, I didn't feel like I was doing extra. I didn't feel like I was standing out. I was just showing up and trying to do a good job. But I truly do believe, because I connected with God and prioritized him in the season, he gave me a certain joy that could not go unnoticed. He gave me a work ethic that could not go unnoticed. And an attitude change too that couldn't go unnoticed. So of course there's positive things that come with that. People are drawn to the light of God. People are drawn to the God in you. So when you're intentional about spending time with God, it shows. Like, you wouldn't believe it. Like, especially when I first started, like, really, really, like, growing my relationship with God, like, there were people who would come into contact with me who hadn't seen me in a while, and they were like, there is a whole new light about you, a whole new air about you. And I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe out of false humility, but obviously it was no work that I did. Maybe my part was, okay, intentionally connecting with God, but but God was doing the work in me, and that's because I was willing to work with God. I was willing to say, when God said, hey, put this down, I was willing to be childlike and say, hey, I don't know why you're telling me to put that down, but I'm going to put it down because you said so. That's what being childlike is, and I'm bringing it back to that, circling back to that, because it's called Wise Child Pod, right? So, and I want you guys to be childlike in your relationship with God and in your trusting God. If he told me to put something down, put a relationship down, put a job down, a desire down, a plan down, it was not always easy. Sometimes I cried like a baby about it, but then I was like, all right, God, we doing this, because this is not more important than you. This desire that I have, this plan that I have, is not above you. It's not more important than you. And I'd rather be connected to you than still have this thing and lose, my relationship with you. Um, and that's what being childlike is when God tells you, hey, get in the car, we're going out, we're going to the park, or we're going wherever, you get in the car and you go. And that's not to say you don't ask questions, but it's not to say that you don't ask questions, because I think kids ask a lot of questions, right? But ultimately you get in the car, even with the questions. And that's what kids do. That's what we don't realize. This is what children do. They might say, "Mommy, where are we going? How long is it going to take to get there?" But how long is it going to take to get there? But they're not getting in the car. You know what I mean? And that's what we do as adults, because of how people treated us, because of how the church treated us, because of any hurt that we may have endured. I don't want to go that way because someone treated me, and now you have a wall up, right? And now you don't trust as much because someone hurt you, and now it's affecting your relationship with God. And we don't realize a lot of times our relationships with people affect our relationship with God. So just be intentional about being childlike. Next time you feel like God is telling you, hey, go talk to this person. Hey, go bless this person. Hey, quit your job. Hey, when you feel God saying those things to you, I encourage you to kind of just go for it. Just jump and just, when I say jump, I mean step in faith, really. When God is speaking to you, when you've had confirmation that God is speaking to you about, which direction to go, don't let fear stop you. Don't let the enemy stop you, because God hasn't given us a spirit of fear, right? But of power, of love, and of a sound mind. And I speak that into my life every day, because I refuse to be debilitated and stopped from what God has for me because of fear. And this is that's what autopilot is. You're debilitated. That's what autopilot is. It's like, okay, sure, when the plane is in autopilot, it gets to its destination, I guess. I don't know if the plane can land in autopilot. Probably not, right? But we don't get anywhere. We become stagnant. And when you're stagnant, there's something blocking you. And it's usually you, right? Usually you're holding on to unforgiveness, or you're holding on to shame, or you're holding on to guilt, to doubt. So I encourage you to kind of like dig in, look introspectively, and work on getting rid of those things and giving them to God and leaving them at His feet, so that you can move forward where you need to in life, move forward in your relationship with God, and He's gonna help you with all those other things, all those other goals you set this year. If it's in God's will, He's gonna help you carry them out, and that's that, So yeah. It's been a pleasure talking to you guys. I've had a great time. I've had some trouble, maybe just a little bit, recording this. But it's all a part of the process, and I'm excited for the process, and I'm excited to be on this podcast journey with you all. And I hope that you keep listening and watching and tuning in. And I encourage you this week to just, pick up your New Year's resolutions again. Pick up your relationship with God again. Just give God another try again. Just give Him another try again. And you'll see that God is going to help you with all those other goals. And I'm not saying, okay, right, because y'all know where I'm going, right? Give God another try. Pick up your New Year's resolutions, okay? Stay out of autopilot. Be intentional. Don't be complacent. And comment down below what you're going to work on this week. What New Year's resolution are you picking back up and going to actively work towards? What steps are you going to take to work towards those goals? What steps are you going to take to get closer to God this week? Comment that down below, and join me next time on Wise Child Pod.